Okay, so this is the latest piece of scrap to follow me home. This is a hard 80 Rotovator. Not sure what year this thing was built, but I would say back in the 70s at some point. It's an 80-inch wide, so that's at 6'8". We had one of these in the past. We actually had a Hubbard 70, slightly smaller model, on the farm here for years. Unfortunately, the gearbox is cracked in it. We really should have kept it for spares, but it ended up going to scrap. So I picked up this one from a neighbour and need to get to work on it. Got a lot of work for this thing, and hoping that the weather's going to dry up in the next couple of weeks, so I need to get cracking on it. So I'm going to run you through some of the issues here. And the first one is fairly obvious. I need to get all this wire that's wrapped around the middle of it out. Plus, take in a bit closer, you can see a lot of the spades are done. In fact, I think there's about roughly 30 spades that need replacing, either badly worn or broken. Now, move up here. The next problem is this universal joint. Just going to bring my light up so you can see it. Still haven't replaced lights in this side of the workshop, so you can see there that that bearing cap is completely missing out of that side of the universal joint, and all the needle bearings have fallen out, but luckily the rest of the joints are alright. So that's going to be one of the first jobs. You can see right here some new spades, so just show you, this was a broken one, this is a brand new one. So there are left and right spades, about a few boxes of each, and also picked up the correct bolts. So let's see what else we need to do back here. Both wheels are flat. This term might be salvageable. I need to look at it. I assume there's a tube in it, so I'll have to open it up. The adjuster that adjusts that tire, which in turn adjusts the depth of the machine, that's completely seized. So we're going to have to start that out. Move you around to the rear. That hinge and that cover is hanging off, so the cover is hanging out of line. That needs to be straightened up. This cover has some weight saving holes in it, so I'm going to have to patch that up, but generally speaking the tin work in this thing isn't bad. It's just those rear covers do need a little bit of work. So coming around to the other side, this tire is completely gone, and not only that, but the rim is also damaged and it's rusted through in one spot. Just try and squeeze myself in here by the Detroit so I can show you. So you can see that's fairly badly mangled there, so that wheel's going to have to come off. I'm going to have to weld that rim. And again on this side, weight adjustment's completely seized. The good points of this thing, this is an oil immersed chain at the end, and the bottoms of those covers used to wear through and then lose all the oil that was in there lubricating that chain, so that luckily is in good condition and it's not leaking. Check the adjustment in the chain and check the oil level on it before we get to work, and also we'll open up this gearbox in the back and have a look at it, but I believe, or I'm led to believe, that that is all okay. So hopefully a lot of what we have here is just purely cosmetic. So I might as well get cracking on it. Oh, and sorry, one more thing is this awful paint job. You can see that it's like somebody just got a can of orange paint and just poured it on top of it. So I think we might try and make the thing look a bit more respectable, clean it up and give it a coat of paint. So plan for this thing, it's actually got one job lined up already. I've got I'm planting some vegetables, so I need this thing to do some rotovating on that, and I'm going to start working around. I've got some boundary fences on the farm where I have a problem with bracken just inside those boundaries, so my plan is to spray those off and just do localised reseeding, and as well as that, if we can get the cat up and running, we will fall in behind with this and do some tilling so we can get those areas reseeded. So let's get cracking. I think what we'll do first is we start off with the universal joint. Now, I've been told the easiest way to tackle this is just to cut straight through the joint with the grinder, and I'll be able to take it to the bench. Well, I'll have to knock out that cap here in situ on the machine. I'll be able to take this one then with the dry shaft to the bench and work on it there. So, second dry shaft is here. It's in good condition. That just needs a thorough clean, and it was stuck inside the other side of the dry shaft, so I need to clean that out, grease it up, make sure it's free. And one other thing it's going to need is it's going to need a protective guard on that cover, or on that dry shaft. There's no cover on it, so I'll have to get one of those. So, and get cutting on that, and it's the first job for my new Milwaukee grinder. I'll show you the tag on this, if I can focus on it. Still haven't quite got the hang of this camera, so it's an AGV 22230, so it's 230 volt grinder, soft start. Nice grinder. I destroyed my other one cutting concrete. I had a Makita, but I managed to jam the diamond tip blade in a concrete footpath and think I twisted the shaft. So I'll try this one out, see how it works. Okay, so here's the dry shaft removed from the front of the machine. So I just need to knock out the two ends, now the two caps that contain the bearings. It's a replacement joint, so it comes with new circlips and new grease nipple. So first thing is to remove the remains of the spring clips that were in there, the circlips. So I'm going to get those out, and then we'll drive out the two end caps, start fitting up the new one. So they drifted over easily. Just put a socket in the back of them, hit them a couple of taps. So I'm just going to get the remains of the circlips. Let's get this camera to focus. It's one thing I still haven't quite figured out in this thing. So you can just see the remains of the circlip in there. And I get that out of there, and then we can start fitting up the new joint. Okay, so here's our joint with the end caps removed. You can see there the roller bearings inside. Let's focus on that. Come on, camera. Yeah, so roller bearings, and there's a seal, and of course that's where the grease nipple threads in and grease pushes out either side. So what we're going to do now is very carefully, without losing the roller bearings, we're going to press these in from the two sides and then install the circlips to hold them. So to do this, you also need to install the joint itself, or you won't be able to get it in afterwards. So let me just show you. I think it goes this way, in here, and in there. So show that to the camera. So it's sitting inside in the middle, and install two caps from either side. Now because this thing is a little bit battered, they're quite a tight fit. So I'm going to push them in the voice carefully. Oh, what to do with the second one? Okay, that's the joint pushed in most of the way. Still working away, rotating nicely. Okay, so I got a nut that was pretty much the size of the cup, the bearing cup, so of this part. That'll just push in there, so I'm just squeezing up the voice again. I got a big bar in it, and that will push the joint in, so I'm just going to keep an eye on it. Here in these shoulders, bring them in bit by bit until they're even, until I can get the circlips in the end. Okay, so that's the joint installed. Circlips reinstated. Now you need to be really careful when you're doing this not to push those caps in too far, because I wouldn't like to have to try to move them back out again if you take them too far. So just very, very slowly when you get to the end, just enough to get those circlips in there. So I actually put the circlip in place on the last one, put a smaller nut in the middle, and just wounded the last bit until that circlip just slipped in there. So start assembling the other end. Alrighty, became pretty clear I wasn't going to be able to pop in the bearings on the machine. I need to do it in a voice. So I took out the nuts and springs in the front very carefully, so I backed them off until such a point I was able to turn the springs by hand and make sure nothing was going to fly out of there. That's the inside. Probably some kind of a clutch, so I would not be breathing in whatever's in that. I wouldn't recommend it, given how old the machine is, just in case there's anything nasty in there. And here's the drive, so I'm going to get it on the bench and get in the last of the bearings. Okay, so first bearing is finally in. It really fought me all the way, kept having needles come out of it and things. So anyway, sure, I have a lot more grease in the next one to hold them in position. That's right. It's finally together. That was a real pain in the face. That's something I want to repeat again in a hurry. So, take an extra and put it back in the machine. Okay, it's time to get rid of some of this free wire I got with it. I don't know what this thing was doing, but it's totally choked up. So I'm just going to cut all of this out of here and start fitting up the new spades. Alright, she's looking a lot more respectable now. That is the pile of the sort of wire that came out from underneath it. So, all clean. And grab the impact gun now and start knocking the spades off it and start replacing them. Okay, so got my spades laid out. I think about 15 right, 15 left. So I'm just going to replace the ones that are really bad at the moment and see what I've got left over then and distribute them. And now I can get more if required. I think they work out about €5 a piece, so they're not expensive, but I've managed to crack most of the bolts so far that I need to open loose. A few of them have rounded off, but I'm just going to knock those off with the grinder. Okay, so that's every nut that I can crack loose, I think. There's about 30 spades on here to be replaced, but there's a few that just rounded off, so I'm going to grab the grinder now and chop those bolts off. Now, unfortunately, seem to have any cut in this for the 4-inch grinder, so I'm going to have to use the big one. Okay, so when I said I had no cutting discs a while ago for small grinder, what I meant was I didn't have ones that were in date. And it's something a lot of people don't realise, that cutting discs have an expiry date. And what can happen is obviously the adhesive that holds them together can start to fail and you could end up with a broken disc. Now, because of the angle I was cutting at with this disc to get at those bolts, I managed to cut along the edge of the spade that I was cutting the last one off, and this has really roughened up the edge of this disc. So I've had a disc break up in a grinder before. Luckily it just came, broke around the spindle, came off in one piece, and I had the guard in place, so nothing happened, but I'm not taking the risk, so I'm going to whip this disc off here and change it. By the way, this Milwaukee has really impressed me so far, especially the soft start in it. It's very, very nice grinder to use. So, change the disc and get back to cutting. Okay, so after 2 evenings messing with this thing, I've finally got the majority of the spades replaced. It was short 3 right hand ones, so these are, or sorry, it's lefts, these are rights, so I'm missing 3 the other side, and I short a few bolts, so gonna have to go and get more of those, but yeah, that is pretty much it. I'll chuck on the other ones before I put it to work, and I've already sliced off the bolts for those so they're ready to stick on there. So let's turn our attention next to these wheels, see can we do anything with them. Oh, there's one more. Oh no, there's not. Okay, that's the height adjuster removed, so it's just a case of removing 2 bolts here to hold the bracket and that big nut bolt out of there. This hole is completely seized, so I'm going to have to strip that next, and I've got the adjuster inverted here. I'm just going to keep spraying penetrating fluid in here for a couple of days, and then we'll put the heat on it, see when we get her to free off. So battery's about to go dead, so I'm going to have to stop recording. Okay, so I first removed the dust cover. Plenty of grease in there, no sign of water. Cracked off this nut which was on there and pulled the hub off. Now I can't see anything wrong here. There was no sign of water ingress. Everything's smooth and the bearing looks okay, so I think it was just a case that this thing was over tightened, that nut. So I'm going to reassemble it and we'll see how it goes. Okay, it's time to take the cover off the back of the gearbox and see how this thing is doing for oil. Now I've leaned the entire machine forward a bit so I can get a bit more in here, but apparently you just have to pour in what you can into it, and that's about it. And then we'll dump some oil in the end here into the chain. So just going to open this up. Okay, so that's what the inside of the gearbox looks like. Now there's 2 gears just sitting in here. There's one, and there's this one. So the bolts, actually, that were going through the cover must have been holding those in place. And I believe those gears, I think, are spares. They appear to be, so that you can change the speed of the machine. But so just going to leave those in place. I probably didn't need to remove the bolts. Yeah, I don't think I did actually. I shouldn't probably have removed those extra bolts in the cover, so I'll bolt those gears back in there, top off the oil and close it back up. Okay, that's the oil in there topped up with gear oil. So I think it's EP90 should go into that. Closest thing I could find in the suppliers was 8090, so it's good enough. Just applied a little oil to that crack gasket before I refitted and tightened those bolts that I shouldn't have removed, so they hold the spare sets of gears. So I'm going to take out this plug now, and I'm going to take out the plug down here and basically fill the case up, chain case up to this level with oil, and hope that it doesn't leak. So I'll start filling this thing and stopping every once in a while and checking the level. Don't know if you can see in there, but as soon as the full 5 litre container is in there, it starts just leaking. So seal on the rotor is gone, so I'm going to pull drain plug on the back of the case there, drain the oil out into a jug, put it back in the container, and then I make some phone calls in the morning, see can I get a seal. Alright, it's all fun. Okay, so hope you can hear me now with the rain outside today, but I took off this little piece in the height adjuster that comes up here. Now one bolt just sheared straight off, another one was already broken, just took the grinder to that. Last one opened, hammered it out of there, so to replace all those bolts. So that now is out of the way of the shield, which must come off first. Then we're going to have to take this cover, this chain cover off. I would imagine then remove the chain, remove the sprockets, then undo the rest of these bolts and remove the entire end off the machine. So yeah, it's a pain in the ass. Seal I think costs about €10 and there's probably a couple of hours work to get into it. So let's get going. Alrighty, that certainly was fun. I've got all the bolts removed. I think there's about 19 of them roughly on this thing. So it's going to give the cover a couple of light taps now and we take it off. Have a look inside. Alrighty. So, it's my first time seeing under the cover of a powered Rotovator. So that's the chain tensioner. It looks to be in alright condition. The chain itself looks pretty good. I would say that it's probably not its first day chain. So what we got to do now is, and I'm going to have to go see my neighbours about this because I have no tools big enough. We need to take off that nut and this nut and pull the sprockets off. Now there has been, you can see the end of that has been wearing into the cover, so there must be a little bit of movement there. So I'm going to have to figure out if we need to shim it or something before we put it back in there. But yeah, so that's it. Once we have these off, we need to undo all of these bolts, and there are, no, I think that might be everything in the bottom. There's some bolts up here on top as well at the back. I'm going to have to undo those and pull that entire end to just support all the different bits. So I'm just going to put blocks of wood in here to support that. So Gonna go and get some tools. I'll be back. Right. Forgot to top the prop up the top of it. Just need to get something in there. Okay, so that's it removed. This is the seal. It doesn't feel that bad, but one thing that I have noticed is there's a lot of crud in there. It looks like it picked up on a bit of string at some point, and that's wrapped right the way in there. So it's probably, yeah, it has collapsed the seal at that point, leaving the oil out. So before I refit it, I think bearing, it seems to be alright, but I'll take a look at it just to be sure, and I think I'm going to steam clean the sole assembly just to clean it up before it goes on. So just to make it a bit more manageable, I'm going to unbolt the arm for the wheel if I can, this bolt, and of course this plate can be removed to reduce the weight. This is the other side of it. Again, there is a lot of crud in there and there's string in there. There's this ring, which I'm not sure if that should be replaced as well. I'll have to talk to the experts about this. Feels like there's a ridge worn on it, but that might be intentional. I'll have to check it. It's a little bit loose on there as well, so I'll just talk to my neighbour knows these things pretty well, so I'll have a chat to him about it. The upper bearing appears to be fine, so I think again we'll just clean out all this area, get all the accumulated crud out of there that could damage the seal, and rebuild it with new seals. So I'm going to turn my attention to the wheels. Neither one is holding air. This one is particularly rotten. So I took them to a tire centre. They couldn't offer anything, plus they said, look, rims are not in good condition. But I called to a neighbour and he made a suggestion. So I went to the local scrapyard and got this space saver. Just going to chop out the centre of that, weld it in. And my neighbour had this one, so again, cut the centre out of the other tire and just weld it in there, and hopefully that should do us, because I would think we'd probably spend an awful lot of money getting tubes and tires for these, so let's go for something that's already here. Now it's not, they're not the same diameter, doesn't really matter. They can just adjust them side to side, it won't make a difference. So let's get cracking. Okay, so one wheel centre cut out. So I'm just going to offer it up now to the wheel and see how it looks. So what I think I'll do is just knock these welds out of here, hammer the centre out of this, and then I can trim the centre I've cut out and weld it in here. Okay, so I've just popped the wheel together temporarily. This is the 13-inch rim, so I've just thrown it on there, thrown the wheel line, and she will clear the covers. Just about clears in there now. When I weld it up, if there is any clash here, I can always use spacers, but that looks good. So just take it off now, pop a couple of welds on it, and we can possibly mock up the second one on this side. Obviously, well, this end is gone for the moment until we sort out those seals, which hopefully I'll have. Tomorrow's Monday, so I'm hoping to have them get seals tomorrow, or at least get them ordered. And we got a extra long bank holiday weekend coming up, so I want to try and get the thing back together. In the next video then we will reassemble it and take it out and do some rotovating with it, hopefully, if the rain holds off. Okay, that's it installed. There's the cover. Far from perfect, but it'll do us. So yeah, I think that's about it for today. I think I'm going to call it a day, and I think I might call it a video as well, and we'll come back to it in a couple of days' time. Hopefully I'll have parts and be able to release part 2 of this video shortly. Okay, so that's it for this video. Just back now with the parts to finish the job. So I'll get cracking in the second half tomorrow. Hopefully have it along very shortly. It's now Monday. I want this machine out and working by Friday if possible. So I'll crack on and get that done. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button. Leave a comment down below, and if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe, and don't forget to turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next installment. Thanks again, guys. See you soon.